All right, today we are multiplying decimals. So your objective is to multiply decimals and page 18. All right, so one key thing on here is you do not line up the decimal points. With adding and subtracting, you have to line up the decimal point, but for multiplying, you don't. You're just gonna pretty much ignore the decimal and line them up as if they were whole numbers, all the way to the right. All right, so now we're just gonna ignore the decimal for now, and we're gonna multiply as if these were whole numbers. So 8 times 7 is 56. 8 times 1 is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 1 is 41. These go away. I put my placeholder 0, and now I use the 3. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 1 is 3, 4, 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Now I add, that's 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 plus 4 is 9, and 1. Okay, so now I have multiplied these as if they were whole numbers. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to count the digits after the decimal. So here's a decimal, here's a digit, here's a digit, here's a decimal, here's a digit. So how many total numbers did I underline? 1, 2, 3. So I underlined 3 numbers, so when I'm looking to where my decimal goes, I'm going to start at the very end of the number and go 1, 2, 3. The same number up here, you'll have that many decimal places here. So that means that my decimal would go right here, and my answer would be 19 and 646 thousandths. Now, a way I can make sure that I put my decimal in the right place is I can look at these two numbers, okay? If I were to round these to a whole number, 5.17 would round to 5. 3.8 would be a little closer to the 4. So if I think about this, well, what's 5 times 4? Well, 5 times 4 is 20. So I know that at the very end, my answer should be close to 20. And 19.646 is close to 20. Now, if I had accidentally put my decimal, let's say here, 196 is nowhere close to 20. Or 1.9 something is nowhere close to 20. So make sure you use this little strategy to check for reasonableness. When you round them to a whole number and multiply, you should get something close to your answer. All right, so let's try the next one. Now, one thing you're going to want to do is always take whichever number is longer or has more digits, and you're going to want to put that on top. It just makes multiplying a little bit easier. So I'm going to actually put this one on the top, 2.419, and 13 goes here. Remember, I don't line up the decimals. I'm just going to line them all the way up to the right. Okay, so go ahead and multiply that. 3, 4, 5, 12. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Put your placeholder 0, don't forget about that. These go away. And then 1 times 9 is 9, 1, 4, 2. Make sure you're lining up your digits very carefully so that you don't add incorrectly. So that's 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 2, 3. And now again, I count the total digits after the decimal. So 1, 2, 3. Now remember, decimal would be right here, so there's none after that one. So just 3 total. So 1, 2, 3. Decimal goes here. Again, I'm going to check that my answer is reasonable. This rounds a little bit closer to the 2. This rounds to 13. 2 times 13 would be 26. So 26 and 31, they're not that far off, so that makes sense. Again, I know that 3.1 something wouldn't make sense, or 314 wouldn't be close to 26. This would. So I know my decimal's in the right place. All right, go ahead and try the next one on your own. Now when I'm multiplying these, I can actually just leave the 0 off since they both start with 0 point something. So if you have a 0 in front of the decimal, you can leave it off. Now if it's behind the decimal, you want to include it just to be careful. All right, 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 9 is 36, 37, 38, 39. 4 times 3 is 12, 30, 40, 50. Placeholder, get rid of those. Okay, 6 times 8 is 48. 6 times 9, remember you can always use the 9 trick if you're not sure. Remember, 1 times 9, 9. Times 2, 18. Times 3, put the third finger down, 27, 36, 45, 54, etc. So 6 would be 54. And I also have to make sure that I add this 4. So 54, 55, 56, 57, 58. And then 6 times 3 is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. All right, so now I add 2, 9 plus 8 is 17, 8 and 5 is 13, plus 1 is 14, 3, 4, 5, 2. Now, I need to count the total digits after my decimal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means my decimal goes out in the front. And my answer would be less than 1. So 0.25472. Now, I can see that if this makes sense or not. Well, in this case, this would round to 0. And this would round to 1. And 0 times 1 is 0. So I know my answer should be close to 0, which this is. So it does make sense. Okay? I know that 2 or 25 or 254 would not make sense. So this is good. I'm done. All right, go ahead and do the next one. Again, I just dropped that 0 off because I don't need to worry about it. All right, 6 times 5 is 30. 6, 7, 8, 9. 6 times 3 is 18. Placeholder 0. 0 times everything is going to be 0. Then when I get to the third line, remember I have 2 placeholder zeros. And remember, I just put a line so I remember that those are the placeholder ones. All right, 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. I add 0, 9, 13, 1, 2, 3, 3. Okay, now I count the digits after the decimals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means my decimal has to go out in front. Again, let's check and see if this makes sense. This rounds to 3. This rounds to 0. 3 times 0 is 0. So it makes sense that my answer is less than 1. Okay, now looking at percent of a number, this actually, you're going to just multiply decimals to find percent of a number. So write this with me. Change percent to decimal and multiply. Now I just put a percent sign for percent and the time sign for multiply. So what you're going to do, whenever I want to know a percent of a number or a part of a number, all I'm going to do is take the percentage and make it into a decimal and then just multiply the two numbers. That's it. Okay, so percent to decimal, to the left we roll. Now I'm going to multiply these two numbers. Okay, so we have 85.50 and 0.20. Go ahead and multiply that. All right, well, 0 times everything will be 0. You could also just multiply by 0.2 because you can drop the zeros off the end. I'm going to just keep them on there to show you. All right, then I put my placeholder 0. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1 is 11. 16, 17. 0, 0, 0, 1, 7, 1. Okay, let's count our digits. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the decimal goes there. And since I am talking about money, I'm going to just drop off so that it's only 2 digits after the decimal, because dropping off the zeros at the end doesn't matter anyway. So this would make $17.10 would equal 20% of $85.50. All right, so go ahead and try it on this one. Change the percent to a decimal and then multiply your two numbers. Percent to decimal, to the left we roll. 1.16 times 18. Now, it's important to realize that on this one, 20% of this number, 20% is relatively small. So I knew my answer should be something small, so that makes sense. This is close to 100, and this is close to 20. 20% of 100 would be 20, so that makes sense. On this one, I have over 100%. So what does that tell you about what my answer is going to be? Well, 100% would be 18. So if it's over 100%, that means my answer should be over 18. And since this percent is not a lot over 100, I know it should just be a little bit over 18. Maybe somewhere around 20, okay? So you always kind of want to think about what would be reasonable as an answer just to make sure you're on the right track. So let's go ahead and multiply this out. So 8 times 6 is 48. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 8, 9. Put your placeholder. 6, 1, 1. That's 8. 6, 7, 8. 9, 10. 2. I count the digits. 1, 2. There's 2 after the decimal. So 1, 2. I put my decimal here. So that would be $20.88. And again, I know that's reasonable because it's a little more than 18, and this percent is a little more than 100. Okay, keep practicing. See you next time.